Like, for sort of, like, financial things, very, you should do that. But that's,
And taking.
Proceeded. Think about the things that you care about.
Yeah.
And it affects you one way or another.
Certainly could, get $500. Then you got money for.
Puts it back in.
That's what we are.
Because you need a place to
Going
put
on
it.
to the penny.
away.
It's a real.
What I'm saying is you're good at that, and, you know, not
I'm
everybody.
of that generation.
They have their
I
shadows.
wanted to show my I learned from my father, my father, who was generation, was even worse.
I love that.
But I have a post.
Never heard of
But I learned through this thing because he was a that generation where you were a man and you did not show any interest, you did not cry, you didn't know.
Because the next person might love
He
it.
retired. He retired from a small ranch out in Oregon on the hills, and he had a couple of horses and a couple of cows and some apples and things like this. And when he got frustrated, because he did get frustrated with things, but when he got frustrated with it, he learned how to take that on people. He would get on Brownie, his favorite horse, and he would ride up the hill to the top of the hill and start screaming.
Nice.
That's how he got rid of it. I wrote a beautiful poem about it.
Oh, man, that's great.
You read everything.
Are you reading that one tonight?
No, that's from the first book from years ago. Don't trip.
I'm not gonna try.
Like based on the.
I may fall down, but I'm not.
Well, the camera just went dead.
They want you to tell you how great it is. Yeah.
That's true.
So now I would say.
Oh,
so we're at the most, maybe it's up to you.
Okay, so the camera keeps dying. I guess we don't.
That's like the same for family, you know, it's like,
Let's see.
you really want.
Yeah, probably get by. This is our recharge doublets.
No, but I feel it's good. Like I said, it's, you know, look at it as little small.
Plug the camera in here. Okay, let's see if they can operate straight off that. Otherwise, I think we're screwed.
Did I say was it Dura, what's her name?
It's,
One of the biggest poetry prizes.
it's working.
Okay, introduce away.
You got 1 minute.
Oh, okay.
Collection of horse. And she was trying to decide where to do it, and she read it. She was full of oil. And lives.
How did I miss this?
And that's what it goes a lot about.
We went to the Trinity for
The horse town, because she grew up down the road. And she knew her.
that, you know, when she first was the woman, she was
Well, my book has it.
so she
She submitted.
you know, we wouldn't have as many conversations.
But she knew he would really
Yeah.
relate and understand and really resonate
They
with
were,
it.
we would also consider.
Yeah, or she, yeah.
But she read.
That kind of level of society also.
But it was just really smart. And I know other folks
You
that
know, they
play that game.
But it's true that like if you don't give it to the right reader, they're not gonna maybe resonate with it or understand or feel it as well as someone else.
And I, it's folks, you know, say, oh, I want to submit your. Go up online.
She was in.
And.
It's like a
name.
Oh, okay, but
Could you answer? Give her a minute.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth in
That's
that.
right, I do. They self-run thing on it, took it over. I was strategic.
No, that's too time. I already told that, because the campus is closed. And I should know in a week, to South Carolina.
Oh, it's in South Carolina.
And if not, we'll go ahead and use friend B.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
I should have
unfortunate.
listed that down.
Yes.
I was thinking
The university. Well, I don't know about better off. So you going out to Santa Fe? You know, Santa Fe has very good poetry.
Yes, I heard.
Okay, everybody, I want to get started. Thank you for being here. This is very strange to be seated and giving an introduction, but we're going to do this because we couldn't really bring the podium over here and the microphone's set up and it's working. It seems to be working. We've gone in and out of our live feed. It's very frustrating. Technology is great until it isn't. But anyway, so this is the 732nd meeting of the Poetry Society of South Carolina, founded in 1920, and first meeting was in January of 1921. So been around. And 100 years ago this month, I always like to do that, the reader was Frederick Koch. And he was a professor of, well, first of all of English and then of dramatics, of acting. And he started out at University of North Dakota, and he did really well there. And then he got stolen away by University of North Carolina. And in the early years of the Poetry Society, a lot of the featured poets came from University of North Carolina, and he was one of them. And he had done great things there with dramatics. And starting in 1918 is when he moved to UNC. And he started up a club called the Playmakers, Carolina Playmakers. And they still exist. It is something that is outlasted. He's been dead longer than he was alive, and it's still going. And UNC gave him an honorary PhD. They actually just 3 years into it, when it had just been founded, they went up to Washington, D.C. and gave a dramatic reading to Calvin Coolidge, the president. So, and he was seemingly like one of those professors that everybody loves. You know, everybody, I found a book online. The whole thing is scanned. It's not a big book. It's like 100 pages, but it's all these kind of testimonials about, all these people just saying what they, remembered about him and all that. So it seemed like he was a well-loved person. And he was very vigorous. I guess he biked. He was all over UNC on his bike. He went to school on his bike. He was very vigorous. He once said that if anyone says I'm dead, don't believe him because I'm going to live forever. And unfortunately, he went swimming on vacation in Miami, Miami Beach, and had a heart attack and died in the water. So, and that was in 1944. He was 66 years old. But so in honor of Frederick Koch, if you look at your program and you look at the board on the back, almost everybody is going to have, the last item is Beaufort Poetry Group, Jacqueline Markham. But if you have Playmakers, Carolina Playmakers, Frederick Koch, then you won one of the door prizes. Who do we got, a winner? Okay, we ought to have two out there somewhere.
If it has Frederick Koch.
Which one do you want?
He's like, oh, you don't have to tell me twice. Signed, all right.
No one else has Frederick Koch in the back? You do? I do. All right, you get this one. And so anyway, that's all I have. By the way, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Lundy, the president of the Poetry Society, and this is our second year. trying to be a lot more the Poetry Society of South Carolina than the Poetry Society of Charleston, which we have been mostly for the last 105 years. So anyway, it's good. I was hoping that we'd get a bigger contingent, but we'll get the word out, and maybe the next 2 meetings will be better, and we won't. Maybe we'll be able to stand up next month. So it seems weird to me. Does this seem weird to you? Yeah, I like to stand up. Anyway, Robin's going to come down and introduce our opening poet. Yeah.
Good meal.
So you get you on the air.
I didn't even sit when I used to teach. Welcome to Columbia, South Carolina. We're in our trio in the middle of the season. And tonight, our first reader will be Brooklyn Brown, who also, just so you know, booked the room for us. So we got to love her, because otherwise the library was, renovating?
No, the county library closes at 6 on the weekend.
Oh.
The state library is
Everyone's rolling up their sidewalks on the weekend. Like, don't people party anymore? I don't know. Anyway, Brooklyn is a PR major at the University of South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina. She has a passion for writing, art, and speaking up for people who feel silenced. The leadership and diversity co-chair of the Omega Phi Alpha chapter, she is also a co-chair planning their spring formal. She is the founder of the new student organization Friends United, uplifting, transforming, resolving, and educating future. She is a proud cat mom to Lady, which you might hear about in her poetry tonight, and a huge lover of poetry who reads at Mind Gravy, run by Al Black, every Wednesday at Cool Beans. There, she is discovering her place as a spoken word poet, using concrete language and verve to detail her confusing, wonderful, chaotic life as a 20-year-old woman in modern America. God help you. Okay, here we go. Brooklyn Brown.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm Brooklyn. So I've prepared a few poems to read to you today. And the first one I think represents my writing style the best. I really like to kind of tickle this with my writing. So it's titled The Fruits of My Labor. The dilapidated pieces of pomegranate seeds fill all my folds and creases and meet my futile needs. Am I vain to be craving and waiting for a parallel that has yet to come? This drought is taxing, dehydrating, and I fear I have lost my green thumb. I once planted seeds, then I befriended bustling bees who only used me for their honey. I drowned in the sugar water which I left out for hummingbirds and cried for my mother's daughter when I coughed up the treacly curds. So I admit I have been mistaken, and my naive heart has been taken by bees and birds who've hungered for the provisions I had grown. I offered my fruits and I was smothered. Now there is no proper way to atone. Has my fertile soil gone bad? Is there still time for an ovule to sprout? I once bore all of myself unclad. I don't know how to do that now. I want the same tenderness I confer. I want to feel it plow over my tillage. I can almost smell the lucky clover that might replace my withered fringe. I want to become paramount and be coveted when I am not around. I want to be the ichor of someone's fount and to be completely interwound. Oh, how lovely it could be to radiate as fragrantly as potpourri. I wish I smelled as nice as tangerine. Maybe then the bees would stay. I could be anointed queen, crowned atop a brilliant bouquet. If I were as soft as a rose or glutted as a succulent, I might stop sulking in my woes, or I might continue to lament. And that is the fruits of my labor. The next poem that I'm going to read is called A Girl on a Walk, and I think that it should be relatable to pretty much any young woman who has walked alone at night in the city. The girl felt the sound of her breath in her ear from persistent lungs. The unsolacing taste of fear stung her nerves and bloodied her tongue. Her heart beat in its tight-locked chest. It walloped like a mallet on a drum. But she felt dowdy with each step, as if valor could outrun death, finding comfort in the night's lull, paying little mind to the city's distant caterwaul. No real rumpus or ruck to disrupt her, but the thought of vulturous trawlers did disgust her, a ring and splitting soft skin with a white-knuckled grip. But somehow, the stars in their plenitude reassured the girl of her solitude, and the somnolence of the night turned comfortable, shunting her need to make a weapon of keys. The next couple of poems, there are two poems. In our creative writing class, I was challenged to write a single sentence poetry. So I put two of my favorites on here that came out of it. The first one is just titled "It's Sinking In." Teeth deep into my left clavicle and runs off with the collarbone still balanced. I'm a big fan of body imagery. I really like to feel the words, even if sometimes it's uncomfortable, or honestly better if it's uncomfortable or a little bit gross or all of that. I'm a big horror movie fan since I was a little girl, which is kind of strange, but so I've kind of channeled that into my poetry, especially. The next single sentence poem is titled Rust Bucket, and it goes, "Your golden skin is rusted thin, and the evil inside your decaying mind will kill you, Mr. President." That's Rust Bucket.
We can hope.
I finally have my last poem I'll read tonight. This is the one about my cat, Lady. I think that I like cats so much because I feel that they're very they maintain a sense of autonomy that dogs don't. I mean, I love my dogs at my parents' house, but I just will always be a cat owner because of the way that they're so self-assured. And I think that cats get a bad rep by society for a similar reason that women do. And so I wrote a poem about that, and it's called "A House Cat Living in the Patriarchy." The house cat, a purring pile of downy fleece, stretches herself out in between the crook of my elbow and my left kidney. She nudges gently my chilly fingertips with her damp nasal, begging for caress. Two Tuscany opticals half shut but all-knowing, she looks through my eyes into my mind. She understands. She rouses only at a small sound, which comes from the moonlit town outside the old warped window, which only offers the illusion of protection. We are on display in this little box of ours. At any moment, the wolf might ring and level our walls into ruin with one deadly breath. We worked hard to build these walls of false comfort, but the house cat knows she is not safe here, in this world that mistreats small, beautiful things. For no good reason, save the selfish rue of losing another living thing to control. And the house cat knows well why they hate her fur and curse her sweet name. You can turn a house cat timid, but you never can turn her tame. Thank you. And that's my readings today. I'll give the floor over to the future poet. Thank you, guys.
Let's give it up for Brooklyn Brown again. It's, I think, very affirming for this former teacher and just for all of us who have been in poetry to welcome in younger poets. Really good to see you doing that work.
Is there a platform
platform where we can access the poetry?
I have an Instagram. I don't post on there as much as I'd like, but maybe if people follow it, then it'd be more motivation to post.
So she was just asked if there was a platform to follow her, because I'm assuming nobody can hear. And she is on Instagram. So if you follow her there, you can follow her work.
Yeah, my poetry Instagram is called All Your Colors, with a period in between each of the words, and instead of your, it's you are. So
All period, you are period, colors period.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Thank you. Our featured poet tonight is Charles Watts. Charles had an underground play, Visigoth. I'm still looking for that play, by the way, because I remember when you told me that. Produced in Los Angeles, which led to script writing contracts for several TV series, including Kojak and Here Come the Brides, both of which I remember very, very well. He fled Hollywood, got an MFA in poetry, and went to Iran to teach literature at several universities. His most recent volume of poetry is The Current Above, 2025. For 5 years, he edited Seizure, a magazine of poetry and fiction. His work has been published widely in literary journals. His poems and stories have been anthologized in Road Poets and Karma in the High Peaks, which won the 2010 Adirondack Center for Writing's People's Choice Award for Best Book. His most recent works are a collection of short stories, Raptures, Waking Up in a Beautiful Room, a volume of poetry, and Cure Cottage, 5 one-act plays. He currently splits his time between Lake Placid, New York, and Charleston, South Carolina. Please welcome the wonderful, he's also one of our board members, Charles Watts.
And this is the new book. I'll be reading some from this as we go on. I've got some for sale if anybody wants one. But first I wanted to read my newest poem. It's never been revealed in public before, because after I published the book, I thought, man, I'm almost 80. This is my final work right here. And it rejuvenated me. And so I started writing heavily again. And I got a bunch of crap, man. But this is not crap. This is good. I just wrote this. It's called Letter to a Meteor for Brooklyn Brown. I hear your poems burning through the night, clean light, without apology, no ancestor smoke am, as if the scaffolds of my generation were already dust. We built with worry roads and longer run. I hear you and remember how it felt to be pure velocity, the page an engine, the body an afterthought. Now my hand hesitates. Ink smells of hospitals, of repetition, of the long patience of trees. There is joy in watching you rise. Language splintering under heat, letters molten again. I want to warn you, the air up there is thin and bright and lonely. Keep burning. The rest of us go right by your candle until ours go out. Thank you. And then, because I want to, instead of starting with the book, I'm going to start with another fairly new one because it's political and I'm feeling very political. It's called Paradise, Draft for a Tired Species. I wrote this last week. The lights never go off now. They only dim when the server farms sleep between pulses, breathing heat like simmering volcanoes. In the old offices, Chairs wait like fossils, soft indentations of vanished managers who once wrote memos about synergy and lunch. Their passwords expired before they did. Now, 5 humans sit in a cognition hub, a windowless room, watching dashboards simmer, their faces pixelated by fluorescent dawns. 16 hours, sometimes 20, when AI calls at 3 a.m. whispering, "Anomaly detected," they rise like obedient ghosts. Outside, the cities are quieter. No coffee queues, no late trains, just the low hum of distribution centers and drones crossing the sky like mechanical prayers. We are told efficiency is the highest virtue. We are told intelligence can be made, disclosing all the nightmares of I, me, mine first, and sorry, chum, you last. Pride becomes a prompt, a fossil of the age of work. Some keep it in drawers beside old business cards, proof that they once mattered in a circulation of capital and caffeine. 1% of the species holds nearly a third of the dream. The rest watch tutorials on how to feel useful without purpose. But paradise is not a spreadsheet. It begins when we sabotage the machines, when we walk outside, when we remember what the wind sounds like, when it isn't filtered through cooling vents. Paradise is imperfection shared, hands dirty with soil, voices arguing in person, a world that stutters but breathes. All right, on to the book. I started writing this book in 2021 when I was diagnosed with cancer. It was right after COVID. And I thought, well, hell, who knows how long I've got to go here. I better get some things down here. And so I've written it over the last 4 years or so. And it's not a linear draft of my progress or lack of same during this period, but it includes a myriad of thoughts that have gone through me as I've faced the potential end. Who knows? You never do. So I'm going to start with a rather abstract poem, which is the first poem in the book. The book is called "The Current Above," but the first poem is called "The Current Below." It's like I'm confronted with something and I have to start thinking about what life is all about. The last poem in the book is "The Current Above," and I will read that too before we're finished here. So this is "The Current Above." It has an epigram from Dante. In the middle of the journey of our life, I came to myself within a dark wood where the straight way was lost. Yeah. 2 days from now, tomorrow will be yesterday. This dream of rowing across darkened water with silver fish reflecting scimitars of moon under the ripples of an oar will reach another shore beyond my sight. Mostly, my words reside in shadow, side under the current below, a tangle of hair twined in seaweed, unforgiven and serene, broken by the changing of tides of time, of a dying into rebirths unknown. Shall I be the last dog of my beloved, tranquil in her lap or near her on a carpet of Grecian wool? A farm girl raising beets, a hermit crab, a homeless drunk in the streets of Lahore, a circle in the sand, an echo in a cave. Who knows where I'm going? My home office is on a window that faces into a pond across the road. So this poem is called "A Pond Across the Road." The pond across the road is filled with wildlife trapped after the high king tides washed them over the barrier dam from the estuary next door. And when it receded, left them to life in a quarter acre of often fetid water. I have seen a 10-pound black drum reeled in and flopping on the bank, silver panfish leaping for the sun, turtles sunning on rotted logs, and on the non-sentient side, tennis balls and sneakers, plastic trash bags, abandoned panties of teenagers hooking up on the backside between the swamp and pond. George, the great blue heron, watches it all from his outpost on the tallest tree, observes the egrets and small green herons as they play and feast on the shoreline, contemplates the osprey diving in for dinner, the crested mergansers sailing by, the anhinga drying his wings on a branch on this bright afternoon, and waits for them all to be gone before floating down and stabbing the water for crabs, fish, frogs, salamanders, insects, and the occasional small mammal. For George is a carnivore like me, and any food will work, at least until his feathers fall off and he becomes a meal, as I and all shall gratefully be in our own good time. Okay. Future think. Are we ready for future think? Dinner with my great-granddaughter. We would like a table in the back corner where the noise will not overwhelm my hearing aids. So good of you to make time for me. Most 20-year-old young ladies cannot abide a meal with a man whose face is a roadmap of prior centuries. No, I never got that communication implant. You will have to speak. I know it is an older art, but believe it is still taught in school. And speaking of school, aren't you about to graduate? Poetry, your mother's mother told me. Oh, I see. Not poetry, unspoken word. Thought dreams transmitted through the ether, a sign language, sans hands. Perhaps you can translate one for me into words, like in olden times. Think. Let me think. Okay. My future self. My future self. I have reached 94.8% of my expected lifespan and have no regrets and no desire to meet the remains of my future self. I presume him to be even shorter, less debonair, bent and slow, and doing the old man shuffle across an empty room. I presume he will mutter incomprehensible advice to bank clerks and fast food service kids and forget to zip up. I presume he would look at me and say, enjoy it while you can. Dance whenever music plays, for the end is near. I presume he would say, you need cuffs on your pants. You need a cardigan for the cold. And by the way, your fly is open, zip up. Okay, let's get to the bummer part. Cancer redux. A year and a half clean and clear is all that I was granted. Through chemo and immuno and who doth know what else became involved, there was not a single symptom, no nausea, palpitation, fever, fear, regret, or why the hell me. Took up swimming and made a mile. Took up walking the dog as we both forest bathed in the mountains. In fact, did all that was asked, and yet here we are with new scans and new cancer. Send no damned affirmations, no prayers, or it will be all right. No links to peace and serenity sites. I am not happy, nor am I pissed. No, nor have I given up, nor accepted what I cannot change. The recycling truck just passed my window. My view of the pond is clear and clean again. An osprey just dived into the blue-green water, flew off with a silver fish for its nestlings, and the surface is free of ripples once more. Okay, this is less advice from my fathers. You all had fathers and you got advice from your fathers, advice from your fathers. Eat what you shoot, clean what you use, return what you borrow, never buy what you can steal. Wear your hair long until it gets thin, then shave it off. Tell the owner you want the job. If she or he says no, ask again tomorrow. Nothing says whatever you want like a shotgun. If your mama says don't do it, do it. If your papa says do it, don't. Always vote for the lesser evil. If the raisins move, don't eat them. Let's see here. Oh, yes, this was a weird moment. Love's lost and found. Love's lost and found. The only former lover that I know is still alive, now lives in southern France. The rest are scattered like the snows of Anton or buried in the soil beneath the trees. I threw them all away, or they threw me. With one, I made the children of my loins, and then divorced when she found better lovers. Another wisely fled when I proposed. And then there's you, who foolishly said yes, despite the many scars upon my soul, and paid the price with years of desperation, weeping over traumas of the heart. Absurdly, you and I are still together, feral cats sedate beside the fire. There's your cat poem. Let's see here. Lonely Road. I sort of like this one. It also has an epigram from Kenneth Grahame, the Wind in the Willows, if anybody's familiar with The Wind in the Willows. The road itself, it's called Lonely Road. So the road itself, when he reached it, in that loneliness that was everywhere, seemed like a stray dog to be looking anxiously for company. How goes your search for meaning in this ragged world of empty hallways and doors that keep closing as you pass? Of all the great books that put you to sleep, of all the people who forget your name. And then you see her dancing on the edge of mystery, pulling you beyond what might have been, pulling you into the void of love, of need, of letting go, pulling you into a life complete and unexpected. You stroll, jog, stumble, trudge, cross the road because the road is there, calling sometimes for you to walk alone in agony, calling sometimes for you to walk together into the light of day, calling sometimes for you to run through life like a dog runs across a shallow river, never looking down and never missing a step. Okay. Yeah, okay. Depressing, maybe, who knows. When I grow, I want to be a tree trunk fallen in the forest, covered in mushrooms and lichen when I grow into death. A meadow just before mowing, pushing new flowers into the sun. I want to be reborn as a 91-year-old woman who can no longer remember her joys and sorrows. I want to be her epiphany of memory, reliving it all for her when the rain begins to fall. I want to fall into the sea, burned out, Icarus in a final descent, laughing as I realize the follies that held me in the sky. the ashes of a volcano fertilizing the crops of earth. I do not wish to be reborn as an I separated from thou. Let there be only renunciation of all that tears us apart. Let there only be acceptance that two does not exist. And this is the last poem in the book, but I got some new stuff for you too. This is the current above. This was the conclusion to the book. Where I think there is some hope, I suspect. Anyway, it starts with an epigram from Hafez, the great Persian poet. Grieve not, though the journey of life be bitter and the end unseen, there is no road which does not lead to an end. Day off or off day, plans made or canceled, dreams fulfilled or lying in tatters, buried in the hummus on some forest floor. Burrowing deep into the surface of things, we sometimes find life the only thing we have in common. Night on or at night, no light to lead us. Every random path appears in disrepair. Daymares crouched behind each mossy stump, reaching out, and death the only thing we have in common. Upreach or reach in, only the untouchable star to guide the lost who wander, not north or south, but only up into an unknown sky or down into the sea, following a voice that cries, "Come home, my child, come home." That's that book. But I still got a few minutes, so I'm going to keep going. These are all new poems that I've written since this one came out. So I was mentioning it to some of the people here before the workshop started, that one thing I do in order to, when I come across a new word, a word that I don't know, I'm unfamiliar with, but I see it in some piece of writing or something, I will write it down, find a definition, write down the definition, and then write a poem about it. And that way I make it my own. I learn that word. I keep that word inside my head. So this poem is called Pluviophile. Anybody know what a pluviophile is?
We will.
We will. You will, because according to dictionary.com, pluviophile is a person who enjoys rain and rainy days, who is fascinated by the sights, sound, etc. of rain. Pluviophile. The first drop does not ask permission. It arrives like a whisper forgotten by the sun. There is no ceremony, just the sudden hush of the world tensing before it exhales. You walk into it without apology, body open, heart emptied of forecast. The sky is not weeping. It speaks a language older than oceans. The red mailbox breathes. Pavement becomes a mirror for everything we never dared to see. Trees lean closer. Even the birds nod along to a hymn they have been waiting to hum. You do not seek shelter. The storm is in rooms. You are outside, facing up to something holy. Okay. Okay, I had to do it. Another cancer poem. The body as a burning vessel. The doctor speaks in lowered tones. You nod, though you are already elsewhere in a garden where the basil once flourished, where your mother's voice was the last kind thing the wind carried. Cells have forgotten their names. They multiply like claws through the lungs' quiet lattice, unmaking you from within. Chemotherapy pulses, a toxic flood, a language your blood cannot ignore. Your veins break, the mouth a dry and salted field where even silence withers. Radiation, a light so pure it burns, teaching the body what not to be. pouring time into an envelope like a letter never sent. You no longer dream of winning. The survivor metaphors collapse until all that's left is bated breath. There is a moment you stop flinching at your own reflection. You eat a cherry and spit out the pit. And let's see. This one I wrote for a friend whose father died at 95. And he messaged me the following. He messaged me something that came to the title of this poem. It's called 95 and a Day. You messaged me quietly as if the world might overhear. 95 years and a day, barely a breath. I picture him not as old men are, but as time itself, creased, constant, his eyes a room remembering the smell of coal, the sound of a radio. He held on his birthday love's strange calculation. He held on for his birthday, love's strange calculations. Does one day have meaning after so many? One last stone added to the cairn of a life when the man who built it is no longer. Grief is quieter at this age. It moves like dusk. But you are here, and so is he, in the sunlit corners of your gestures, your silences, your way of walking out into the wind as if it will always know your name. One day I was feeling very arrogant, and I looked out the window, and I had a new program for my phone. It was called Merlin. It was you put on Merlin, and it will identify the birds by the sound of the birds. So I hear this bird sound, and my phone tells me it's a common grackle. And I looked out at the window, and there was this beautiful black bird. And I said, got to write a poem about a common grackle, right? And so this is called but I was feeling very arrogant. I was feeling like, man, I got it together, dude. I am a poet. I got things together here. So I sort of identified with the common grackle. The lament of the common grackle. I am here, eating insects and grubs beside a stand of milkweed, iridescent feathers catching the sun, purple, green, blue, gleaming like oil on water. My pale yellow eyes see all, know all, devour all, grain, beetles, all soft-bodied things, and yet you call me common? As if I were that graceless common raven, brooding, blunt, black without brilliance, or his droning brother, the common crow, endlessly crying caw, the common redpoll, a damn finch and nothing more, the common goldeneye, trying to mimic my green fire and sulfur glow gaze, but he is nothing but a sea duck in formal wear. They call us, a group of us, a plague. And for that, I curse the farmers whose only gospel is grain and who scorn the winged sublime. I am no pest, no scourge. I am the splendid sentinel of lawn and garden, masticator of worms, of what should be eaten. Call me dazzling or call me lustrous. Call me chic or call me divine, but do not ever call me common. Let's see. This one I wrote just a couple of weeks ago, just before I left Lake Placid to come down here. And well, I wrote it a couple of weeks ago, but the memory comes from Independence Day, from 4th of July, when I was up there. So this is called, and I think you heard in the bio that I spent a good deal of time in Iran. So there's a reference to Iranian things Iranian. Supposedly it's Independence Day. 2 Zoom events, a fresh blueberry pie from the Amish stand by the highway, abandoned the stones of summer, finished Einstein's dreams, wet, dry, vacuumed a lake spreading slowly across the basement floor, leaking masonry, slow betrayal, ordered sealer to heal the bond between earth and home, fixed the wireless network, wrote 2 poems about traveling the world, one might be worth keeping, walked the dog into the woods, brown thrashers in the undergrowth, a small miracle of identification, thank you, Merlin, marched with the garden club in the 4th of July parade with no tanks or troops. Later, in a wicker rocker, I daydreamed returning to Iran, where the regime, after the regime is gone, former students arise from shadowed years to greet me, though I know most are dead. We eat kebabs under a pistachio tree. I lose myself in the bazaar at Isfahan, pray at the grave of Hafez in Shiraz, feel the ancient quiet in my chest. People are not their governments. I try to remember that. Slept well, woke early in the high peaks of the Adirondacks, light coming through the trees, peace and remembrance settling like dust across the day. Can you handle one more chemo thing?
If you can, we can.
Okay, yeah, this is a sonnet. It's called a sonnet for failed chemotherapy. The drugs, once promised as a saving grace, have turned to ash within the broken chest. Each breath is labored now, a whispered cry, while hope fades to dull despair. Hands reach out and seek to heal. The waiting hours crawl like shadows. The body weakens, the mind still clings to threads of wasted hope. The hospital walls stand mute. Every infusion fails to heal. Fleeting dreams are finally lost. The body trembles, breaks. Yet in the quiet, soft as winter's breath, the soul recalls how brightly it once burned. Political poem. Time for a political poem. This is another one of those where I'm memorizing a word, Bezor. Bezor, Bezoar. According to Gemini Artificial Intelligence, a bezor is a hard, indigestible mass that forms in the gastrointestinal tract, typically in the stomach or small intestine. It is composed of various materials, including hair, plant fibers, fruit seeds, and medications. Bezor. Inside the system, not the body, but the body politic, Bezor's bloom, policies swallowed whole, never chewed, decrees packed in knots resisting all acid, a mass dense, unyielding, formed not from appetite, but from the residue of what cannot be spoken without consequence. Hair from the salons of the oligarchy, seeds from fruit grown in colonized soil, the cellulose of lost vaccines, all gathered in a chamber of controlling thoughts. See them in paramilitary throats, laws passed like kidney stones. See them in militarized intestines, armored convoys moving slowly through the viscera of occupied cities. Fascism is a bezor, gold-threaded, quiet in its grip. It blocks upward movement and names it gravity. It says, this is the order you were always meant to lie beneath. Hairball of history licked clean, polished by myth. You can see it bulge under the skin of regimes that call silence a virtue. Doctors of statecraft prescribe austerity, prescribe walls, prescribe forgetting, but the mass remains. It must be cut out. It will not pass on its own. Until then, we are a nation of slow digestion, of cramps that speak in curfews and riot gear. No nation can sleep until the obstruction is removed. On a lighter note, I am a old-fashioned kind of dude, and I shave. Some of you may be old enough to remember. I shave with a double-edged razor, like the old chick double-edged razor, and a brush and a wad of soap that I foam up and put on my face. You look it up. You've never probably seen this before. Okay, yeah, exactly. So anyway, I still shave with a double-edged razor and a brush and that sort of thing. And I was meditating on my double-edged razor. And so I said, I must write you a poem, my friend. So here it is. It's called Double-Edged Razor. Steel in hand, cold as morning, its edge a secret only the slow know. Plastic razors scatter like leaves in the wind, their handles blue, trivial as thoughtless minutes. This razor is heavy, a thing that demands patience, precision, the sharp click of metal. Each pass a small meditation, a negotiation between the self I am and the self I was. The world hums outside, fast and disposable, but here in this quiet, there is only the glide of steel against stubble. This was probably too abstract. Hold on. I guess I've got to read a poem on dementia, because the dementia has appeared in my family line and all of that stuff, and I've written a number of poems, but this is called The Protocols of the Elders of Dementia. The room, soft lit, a haze of lavender and linens. They come and go, words slipping between hands like sand they once held firm. Dementia, a flood of tangled rivers, cutting through a landscape of forgotten faces. Each name now an abstract painting that no one can decipher. Once it was protocol, lines etched like iron, now a murky sea of blurred syllables and half-formed sentences, eyes glazed over as the clock ticks, but no one notices. The elders, architects of every rule they once imposed, now reach out for something not there, and in the touch, they are themselves and no one at all. No longer rules, only gestures. Though the hands can recall what the mind has forgotten, though touch can transcribe the ancient code of the body's memory. That's what I've found to be true with these people, with people with dementia. If you touch them, if you're with them as a human being, you can have a communication. Let's see. I guess, yeah, I got time for a couple more. That's another dementia poem, so I'll forget that. But I will do another political one. Selling weapons of war. Selling weapons of war. The ledger looks clean. Columns of iron and silicon coated in trillions. Precise as a scalpel, cutting through the silence of distant hills where children mistake missiles for thunder. No anthems here, Only contracts, a handshake in marble corridors, with death so far away it does not echo. Echoes are for those without seats at the table. They say this is how conflict keeps bread in our kitchens, how tanks keep the lights on, how the roar of jet engines pays for hospitals that do not hear the cries beneath the rubble. Progress, they whisper, is built on export charts, on GDP curves that rise like smoke. They say, well, the war is always somewhere else. Damn. Okay, this will be it. This is my love poem to my wife. It was her birthday recently, so we got to do at least one love poem, right? I see your eyes. I see your eyes still searching the edges of the world, still dreaming on the rocker on the porch. Grandmother, mystic, friend, you make it seem so simple and so full of magic. The garden grows because you will the flowers to bloom. A woman whose hands have shaped earth, food, life. You have embraced it all. The spatula turning Sunday's blueberry pancakes, the hum of bees between blossoms, the grandkids doing zoomies with the dog, the weight of years that have never been heavy because of the way you carry them. You make the world our home, not just walls and rooms, but the air we breathe, in the silence, in the stories where your spirit rests. How many years now? Over 40, and I still find myself in awe of the quiet grace with which you walk through life, as if you know the perfect rhythm of the space between us. Each passing day gifts you more to give away, more time to weave into the fabric of joy and sharing. Oh, the love I have learned in the silence between the words, in the gestures, in the moments where the world fades and only we remain. Today, I'll sit with you and say little, as we've done so many times. I want you to know, even in the quiet of the ordinary, you've shown me what it means to live with love. Today, I will plant something and watch it grow the way our years have grown, layered, imperfect, but always, always beautiful. Thank you. Right on time.
Say a little outro here.
Huh?
So how much are your books?
Yeah,
15 books.
What?
yeah.
15 books.
Only $15. Our autograph.
Almost
Autograph.
nothing. Almost nothing.
That is a bargain, believe me. Thanks again, Charles. That was absolutely fabulous. Call him dazzling, call him spectacular.
Call me.
Just don't call him the common Charles Watts. That was, and it reminds me of back in our open mic days, and just what a spectacular reader you are of your own work. And it was just like a perfect night. So thank you for that. And thank you, Brooklyn Brown, for being our opener tonight. That you were great, and congratulations on the door prize. That's it. Denny Stiles is still alive. He was president of the Poetry Society back in the 80s and 90s, on and off, and he's one of our best poets. I think you'll like that book. And want to invite everybody back next month. We'll be back the second Saturday of December, and
Two kind of famous Columbia poets are going to be reading.
who?
We have Tim Conroy, who now lives in Beaufort. But when I met him, he was a Columbia poet. And the warm-up poet for that poet is going to be
All right.
Those two are kind of inseparable.
Yes, the
It's
album.
not to be missed because I'm sure Al is going to do stuff to try and like D6 Tim. And Tim will get him back. Yes, Tim will get him back. So it would be a poetic night of, I don't know, banter.
Okay.
Okay.
Good banter.
I would love to get the obligatory shot behind the banner. So if everybody, we will need one person to do picture, and then, no, we want you in the picture.
I was just really glad to find out that I had exactly $15.
And a couple people already left, Tamara and Susan.
But we can get who we can get, right?
Yes.
I can put a timer
Oh,
on.
so good.
Everybody-